Yeah, that something that I should have brought out there, that whole idea of travailing and birth again. I think that, again, shows what he's doing here. He's really working with this letter about that. But anyway, this idea of my little children is a pretty interesting phrase. It's only here in Paul, as in this context, but we see this apparently sort of a Greek phrase of, or possibly Jewish phrase of affection used by John quite a lot. And verses like John 13:33, little children, yet let a little while and I'm with you. And so and I could imagine John using, John was probably like 90 when he was writing that, so everybody was little children to him. But anyway, this is, I don't know, when was John, how old was John when he wrote the Gospel of John? Do you have any idea about that?
I don't. I do not. Most people put him at towards the end of his life, but nobody really knows for sure that I know of.
Right.
I could be wrong.
They have pretty solid numbers for the Revelation. I think there might be some.
Yeah, most people put that at 93 A.D. But I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a saying of tremendous affection, and it's used at the time, and it shows the pastor's heart that Paul had for them. Paul's travail was in his labor of praying about and studying and writing this letter. It was no doubt a serious burden for him. And so I imagine weeks going by when Paul was putting this letter together in a hurry, probably doing research, praying, gathering those that wrote it, amanuenses or whatever, for him, all the while knowing that every moment the teeth of these false teachers were sinking in deeper to his converts far and away in another land. He knew from the apparent report and what had been happening and what was going on, and he was devastated, I'm sure. So he was probably thinking things like, was there something I could have done better? Maybe it was because I was so sick. Maybe I would have preached stronger if I was healthy. So these are just possibly, some things like his thoughts. But this passage really helped me see the energy that we should put into lovingly demonstrating to our brothers and sisters the errors of their way in a methodical way without being demeaning, and as well as the initial gospel and doing that completely as well. All right, Mike.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Verse 20. Galatians chapter 4, verse 20. I wish I could be present with you now and change my tone, for I am perplexed about you. Paul is perplexed by the Galatian believers. He is not present with them, as most people put this letter written from Antioch before the council in Jerusalem, right around Acts 15, in that general area, although nobody really knows for sure. For Paul, the gospel was all about grace and faith, and as someone who lived under the law with great zeal, he knew perhaps better than anyone in Galatia what it entailed to really follow the law. Paul wants to change his tone and be with them in the spirit of brotherhood, but in the flesh. But he's perplexed about them. He doesn't know what's going on. Are they Christians? Are they not? Does they still need protection? How come they fell away? He is perplexed about them. Chris?
I'm going to read first from a quote here from Luther about this verse. It says, I desire to be present with you now and to change my voice, for I stand in doubt of you. He says, a common saying has it that a letter is a dead messenger. Something is lacking in all writing. You can never be sure how the writing page will affect the reader because his mood, his circumstances, his affections are so changeable. It is different with the spoken word. If it is harsh and ill-timed, it can always be remodeled. No wonder the apostle expresses the wish that he could speak to the Galatians in person. He could change his voice according to their attitude. If he saw that they were repentant, he could soften his tone of voice. If he saw that they were stubborn, he could speak to them more earnestly. This way he did not know how to deal with them by letter. If the epistle is too severe, it would do more damage than good. If too gentle, it would not correct the conditions. But if he could be with them in person, he could change his voice as the occasion demanded. And then I'm going to close here with a sort of summary of some of this from Guzik. He says this section in Galatians 4:12 through 20 shows us principles for the attitude for people in the church towards their pastor. First, he says their attitude must not be determined by his personal appearance or personality. Their attitude must not be determined by their own theological whims. their attitude should be determined by his loyalty to the apostolic message in the Bible. And this section, 12 through 20, shows us principles for attitudes for the pastor towards the people in his church. He must be willing to serve and sacrifice for his people. He must tell them the truth. He must love his people deeply, but never for a selfish motive. He must desire to see more than mere excitement, but zeal for good things. He must desire to form Jesus in them, not himself in them. Well, that's a pretty strong and thoughtful words from Guzik.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, this is definitely happening in churches out there. I know a lot of times, we look at the different things going on in churches and say that, sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater. But, the Holy Spirit is definitely doing great things in churches all over the place. And people that are earnestly seeking the Lord's will for their church. And if they're doing that, as frail as they might be, they're certainly good places to fellowship and to worship God for sure. So that about wraps it up. And if you have any questions or anything, you can go to our website, which is versebyversebibleteaching.com. You can subscribe on iTunes, and you can check us out there. So hope to see you next week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.